This problem is regarding the instrument cluster on a 1999 Chrysler Town & Country. I found that a lot of other Chryslers and even Dodge minivans and Dodge Neon, similar vehicles that use these instrument clusters, they have difficulty, particularly with the instrument cluster not receiving a signal, and either no lights show up or some lights, and you are unable to use the tachometer, speedometer, as well as the fuel gauge, the odometer, the gear shift indicator, and even the lights that normally appear on the top row, such as the flashers and check engine light, etc. So later on in this video, I show how I take apart the vehicle to get at this part and take it out, repair it by resoldering a connection, and then put it back together again.
Start the disassembly by removing the 2 screws underneath the kick plate. Then move to the side of the kick plate and remove a 3rd screw.
One thing I did find is that when working on the 2 screws that are up underneath the parking brake, it really helped to wedge something in here to hold the parking brake out before I tried to get at these screws that are back up in there.
Here I used a mag light to hold the parking brake out as I removed each one of the screws. And you can see here that's the back of the parking brake that comes out with that kick plate. The part that's connected to your parking brake cable. Now remove the 1 screw attached to the vent on the left side. Here's a picture of the back of the vent. You can see the 2 clips that are easy to just pull out after you remove that 1 screw. After you have the vent off, remove the 2 screws that are revealed. We're going to need them out later. Next, we need to remove that plastic covering behind the steering wheel in front of the instrument cluster. It has 1 screw on either side. That's revealed when you remove the kick plate. When we remove that plastic covering, we see an additional screw on either side of the steering wheel. We need to remove those next. We also want to make sure that the screws on the left side have been removed so that we can get the largest plastic piece out. This piece that I'm referring to is the part that covers the vents. It includes the vents in the center and on the left driver's side. To remove this, you want to start by pulling on the tabs at the top between the plastic and the leather, pulling them towards you, and then slowly sort of working the plastic clips out of their holders. Now you can't just tear this piece out because unfortunately it's connected with 3 cables for your mirrors and your lights. Those have little connections that need to be unclipped in order for you to pull this piece out. So at various times you're going to need to put the key in and drop the shifter down so that you can get some of these parts in and out. After you have that large piece out, next remove the 4 screws that connect the instrument panel to the back of the dashboard. These are Phillips screws, not the hex screws. Tip the instrument cluster forward towards you and remove the clip that's located on the back. You may need to use a small screwdriver for some of these clips to get them off, or just squeeze and pull. This is what you're left with after you remove the instrument cluster. Now you can take the cluster out and we'll begin disassembling it. Leave the screws on the front and we'll focus on the hex screws on the back covering this brown plate. Use a T15 hex screwdriver to remove all the screws holding that brown plate onto the back of the instrument panel. Then remove all the light bulbs, followed by removing all of the rest of the T15 hex screws from the back of the circuit board.
So when taking out and putting in these tiny little light bulbs, They're a little bit more difficult than the big ones. They only need about a quarter of a turn, but you actually have to push down a little bit on it into the board and then turn in order for it to come out. That's the same with removing it. It seems like they're a little bit tough to remove, but you need to kind of push in a little bit and then turn a quarter turn to the left. When I took them out, I actually just used pliers and grabbed hold of it and turned it a quarter turn to the left.
Be sure to remove that tan ribbon cable. You may need to use a screwdriver to carefully release the clips to allow you to lift it straight up. With the light bulbs and hex screws out, carefully lift the board to remove it from the rest of the console.
Here is the electrical board from my 1999 Chrysler Town & Country minivan. What I found was there was a cracked solder joint on the back of the board, and it was actually on this corner connection right here. This is the after. You can see that I heated the joint a little bit too much and it got a little burnt. But I think it'll be okay. All the rest of them seem okay. I found that with my YouTube searching, it's common that the solder joints that are immediately connected to this main connection are the ones that go bad. I only heated and applied more solder to that one joint. So I looked over the rest of them and I don't find any other imperfections. I see some kind of lame soldering, but I think that everything else is okay. So I'm going to put it all back together now and see if it works.
Just do everything in reverse to put everything back together, and you should be good.
So now we've put together the vehicle again, and it's time to try it out. I've obviously tested it before I put together all the plastic pieces. I don't want to have to take off and put these on again, but I'm going to show you here what happens when we put the key in the ignition and turn it to the on position. You notice right away the odometer and the gear shift indicator are working. And something else I've learned about these Chryslers is they don't have a shift brake interlocked feature, which means that without pushing my foot on the brake, you can shift into gear, which is a huge hazard. Anyways, we'll turn the key to the on position. You'll notice that the fuel gauge responds right away. The lights come on, and my check engine light is gone, and my back windshield wiper also works now, which went out when the indicator console went out. So pretty happy to have this done. I've got estimates that said I saved about $800 over going to a repair shop. They would have to order a new part and install it. It took me probably about 45 minutes in total to do this if I was running through it. I took a little bit longer because I was learning along the way. So I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope that you can save yourself some money on your repair and that your instrument cluster works once again as well.